Hi, everyone. Welcome to Office Hours. Happy New Year. We are here. First day of 2022. And so we're happy to see all of you here. First hour is general discussion, and the second hour will be about education. Second couple hours usually are about education. And that will not be on YouTube. So if you want to see that, you'll have to come to the Zoom. You have to sign up for Zoom, which you can find on officehours.global. So definitely check that out. So let's go ahead and jump into the questions. Who is reading the questions? Go ahead.
That's me. Happy New Year. And our first question today comes from Chad Lafarge in Colombia. And he says, do you think it would be amazing to have a New Year's birthday like Ken?
Ken, is it amazing to have a New Year's birthday?
Yes, because everyone on the eve of my birthday, you go out and celebrate and there's fireworks and everything. All for me.
Well, we couldn't celebrate last night, but I think we're going to have to do the happy birthday. I apologize in advance for what this will sound like, but it has to be done. Is everyone ready? Everyone ready? All right. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Ken. Happy birthday to you.
Hip hip.
Oh,
Thank you for a wonderful present. Thank you.
Happy birthday, Ken. All right. Next question.
The next question comes from Guy Cochran in Seattle. How is John Pretto's rocket project progressing?
Go ahead,
Do we
John.
want to start this now, Alex? There's a lot to report. That's what I'm asking.
Let's do it. Let us know.
Okay, so I've had about 35 guys sign up to be part of the team. We had a team meeting this week. 20 of those 35 showed up for the actual team meeting. I have this long keynote, which is just an aggregation of all the data. We have project management going on. We have a website. I built a website yesterday. And it's not a rocket project anymore. What it's turned into is a story about office hours and why all these people are coming to Las Vegas to shoot this rocket off. And so there's about 10 people or so coming to Las Vegas. There's a picture of the actual rocket behind my head. I'll turn my head off so you guys can see what it looks like. So there's the rocket dry fit. It's 12 feet tall. It's about 100 pounds, 6-inch diameter, 2 flight computers. And then we're going to have telemetry. And so we're going to do a live broadcast. We think we've got this all worked out now. Between Jeff Keithley and Keenan, we're going to have multiple drones. We're going to have an ATEM ISO. But then we're going to feed this all up to Jeff's cloud as well. To do the final production is going to be up in the cloud. And then the bandwidth out at the place is using the Ubiquiti radios, and then is using the Cradle Point, right? So Ubiquiti has this great program, at least for North America, that you can draw on a map on Google Map, and it will tell you whether it's line or sight now. So you see down here in white, this is a line of sight shot. It drops down about 400 feet. If there was any mountains or buildings or any of that stuff in the way, it would tell us, and then it tells us what we should expect for our link. And so we're pretty certain we can get at least 305 megs out to the dry lake bed, and so we should be covered in that regard. And then some other interesting facts. We've got a telemetry link, and so an unannounced. I'm looking for the telemetry link graphic here somewhere. One of the volunteers of an office hours producer wanted to join the project, went out and researched this flight computer that I'm using, and actually wrote the parser, unannounced, unsubscribed. He said, "Here, I wrote this parser out, so we get the data down from this flight computer with the Yagi antenna, and then it's parsed out, and then we're going to be feeding that into Tuomo's package." And so Tuomo's helping us with the real-time flight telemetry. And so we're going to get real-time flight telemetry off the rocket, and then that will be boosted up to the live broadcast. And then we've got a lot of people involved on this team. And so the guys are spending a lot of time working on the story and the human story of what this thing called office hours is, and their trek across the United States, and the camaraderie that's involved. So it's turning into a way, way bigger project than just a little silly rocket.
I think it's great. And I think that, not only can we tell that story, but I think over time, I think we could, I watch a lot of launches, and I think we could outdo them pretty quickly with your rockets. These 12-foot rockets, and our coverage could point towards what SpaceX and what a lot of I think that I got an idea. Oh, okay. So let's just find out do you know if around your launch it's anywhere near any launches from Blue Origin?
No, all those are down in Texas.
I mean in time.
Oh, in time. I don't have to look it up.
Let's find out. I have a horribly cool idea. Anyway, so I'll do some research on it over the weekend. But anyway,
I think I know what you're thinking about. That guy lives here in Las Vegas.
Yeah,
their office is here. Yeah,
I think the truck is in Las Vegas.
That's right.
The telescope is in Las Vegas.
Right.
So anyway, because I think they have to drive down to Texas. So anyway, let's do some research. Point is that coverage, the Blue Origin coverage, is the best because it has the best equipment, but it's very basic. It's not, and that's a choice, in the production. And I think that we could have a lot of fun where we're adding more commentary, more, graphics, more, all those other things than we see. Maybe not as competitive with Blue Origin, but definitely with SpaceX, and I think it'd be really fun to kind of really push the outer envelope of that process. And so let's, really excited about your project. I grew up making rockets literally every day. I fired a rocket every day for a couple of years. And so, with my Estes designer kit, that was what I had, and lots of I got past the Big Berthas and the Astrocams pretty early and just started building my own. And so I'm super excited about the project. And so hopefully I'll be able to come out. But either way, I think that what you guys are doing is amazing. And so let's see how big we can make it. Over the next couple launches, this one, and then just keep making it nuttier. I'm all about that. Anyway, so great work. All right, next question.
The next question is from Mike Beardmore in Reading in the UK. Has anyone been watching The World's Strongest Man? UK get it every Christmas with the final normally in the USA. It might be an interesting use case to analyse, as was done with the NFL.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to take a look at it. I don't know if I've ever, to be honest, I don't know if I've ever seen it. It may not be it's one of those things, like I only see what's on YouTube TV. So I don't know if do we know what network it's on? Is it on a YouTube TV? I guess that's the thing, is what network is it on in the US? But I've seen clips from it, and I've watched a documentary about it. I think it's really cool. I just have never seen the actual live broadcast. I didn't, so it just may be on a cable network that I don't have access to. But I'd love to break it down. I'm guessing, because of Mike's question, that it's got good graphics. Go ahead, Roscoe.
It appears it's on History Network, and
I don't know if I think History Network's now on YouTube TV, so I'll take a look at it. That's good. Let's check it out. I'll try to find it and put it on VOD or whatever so that I can find it later. Next question.
The next question is from Deborah Woodfork in Washington, D.C. Thoughts about the concept webcam parry from Dell? Should Apple get back into the external webcam game? And then there's a link.
Go ahead, TJ.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept from them. It is just a concept. It's not an actual production camera at this point. Basically what it is, it's a little tiny, say like a lipstick sized tube of a webcam that you can place anywhere on your monitor, as long as the monitor has metallic backing throughout the entire monitor. Most monitors nowadays don't have a lot of metal behind them, or if they do, it's aluminum, not ferrous based. So you would need to have a special monitor that would allow you to be able to put it anywhere behind it. And it is a wireless HDMI signal. It's an interesting idea. Should Apple get back into the webcam game? I don't think so. I think that market is long past them.
Yeah, the only thing, as a person who uses the screen a lot, I think I'd be really sensitive to putting something up against my screen all the time. Like, I feel like that would reduce how long the screen lasts. If I was constantly pushing something up against it. So I barely like to touch my screen. I do it every once in a while to clean it. But outside of that, I'm one of those people that, like, if we used to have art directors that would sit there and tap on your screen and point to things, and all of us would be like, I'm gonna, so I don't really like my screen being touched. So I don't know if I'd be super excited about. I think you're right that Apple's probably past. They're just making the cameras internally better. Than the finally. I mean, they hadn't invested in it in years. So I think that's where they're going. I still feel like I did get I have the last Dell. I think I've talked about it in the past. I ordered the last Dell camera, and it is the best industrial design I've ever seen, but the camera stinks. So it's like the camera's not anywhere near the quality of the Brio. And it's just unfortunate because the camera itself, the casing of it, the best. Like, it's just, when I opened it, I thought this is going to kill everything. And then as soon as I plugged it in, it did not. Next question.
Our next question comes from Douglas Carmichael, and he asks, I saw a clip from a Billy Joel concert at Madison Square Garden where they transitioned from O Come All You Faithful to My Life seamlessly without even stopping. How would they have arranged the song, and what is the secret to such seamlessness?
Go ahead, Jeffrey.
Oh, I do mashups all the time. I love them. There's 3 ways to do it. First of all, the simplest way is to simply match the key. Billy Joel's song is in key of D, and O Come All Ye Faithful is in G, so most likely they could have probably just put it down into D from there. 2 other ways to do it. One's called modulation, and that's where both keys share the same chord or notes, and then you transition that way, nice and seamless. Queen, Save Me, Come On Eileen are 2 songs that are good examples of that. And then you have dramatic key change. There's no rhyme or reason. Things like Celine Dion's My Heart Will Go On, Whitney Houston, Celine Dion, Whitney Houston, I Will Always Love You, and Bobby McGee, even though it just goes up one step in the next chorus, it is kind of a dramatic key change, although it can be also considered modulation. So a few different ways.
Yeah, for us, it was always, tempo was also a big deal, that, just kind of figure out what the tempo is from one to the next. A lot of these things for these concerts, you have to remember that a lot of them are running on click tracks. So they have they're listening to a click track while they're playing oftentimes, and that tightens up their performance, but it lets them kind of stay where they're at and just keep moving. And it's tons of rehearsal. One of the things that I'm hoping to do this year is try to get you guys a virtual tour of Rocklettes in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. That's pretty much where every concert starts in the United States. So basically they have all the rehearsal stages there, and that's where they figure out all the tech, and they figure out all the lighting, and they figure out all the bits and pieces. They all start there, and then they pack it all up they figure out how they're going to pack it into the trucks, and everything's all figured out there. But with that is generally the bands are rehearsing over and over and over again to get the songs to the way how they're going to perform them. And they performed a lot. Obviously, they rehearse in rehearsal studios, for months. I mean, that's the thing. You think they just get up there and play, but for a tour, especially a major tour, I mean, they may rehearse for 2 or 3 months, on all the things, and they're figuring out where they're going to be and who's going to dance where and how they're going to do. Like, there's a lot to it. It's not just it's not very for the really big ones. It's just, and it's a year oftentimes of design. Like, there's there's CAD drawings, and there's planning, and there's visualization, and all those things for a major concert, especially one like at Madison Square Gardens. There'll be a lot of work, that takes to get to that point. Next question.
The next question is from Tim Cooper in Rock Hill, South Carolina. How many of you with limited budgets purchase used products from B&H or elsewhere rather than buying brand new? I bought 2 of the lights Alex recommended on Twitter, and they arrived looking great for significant savings.
Go ahead, Mark.
So I've bought a number of lenses, Canon lenses, EF lenses, used from B&H. They turn out great, and I can get a lot more lenses for the same amount of money as if I bought them new. So it's worked out well.
Go ahead, TJ.
Absolutely. Checking used gear from a reputable dealer is a great way to go to save a lot of money. I have a local camera shop that has a lot of used gear that I bought from. The camera you are looking at me was a used camera, which I got from Guy. So the used market is a great way to go.
Go ahead, Guy.
Yeah, we go through a lot of used equipment. It's amazing how many people will return something that they kind of use as a rental center. So they'll buy it, use it in a production, and return it. It's a sad thing that happens, but we get quite a bit of that. So we test it when it comes back. We clean it up, make sure that it's in good shape, and then we offer it on eBay or on our website or on Amazon for quite a bit of savings, usually up to 20, 30, sometimes even 50% off. So if you don't need it for a production right away, I would say used gear is a good way to go. I buy new if you have a looming production, or buy two, and then send one back. So yeah, some good tips there. And thanks, TJ, for getting your camera from us.
Jeffrey.
And I always go for refreshed or overused, because a lot of times those are certified and they come with the exact same warranty as if you bought it brand new.
Yeah, and I think that, again, for us, it's who you trust. So a DVE store or a B&H makes sense. I wouldn't buy them off of eBay, like lenses. I bought my mileage in eBay has been very mixed. So I there are things that I buy on eBay that I have bought in over the last year, but I don't do it very often. I'd rather buy from someone that I really knew, that I can call and say, hey, what's going on? So, and I just know that the chances are much higher. Next question.
Our next question is from Dennis Champion Walker in Southend-on-Sea, who asks, what is your office hours New Year's resolution?
Go, TJ.
I don't set resolutions. I like to follow the Japanese philosophy of do on the first day of the year what you want to do the entire year. So, hey, I'm here with you guys.
Go ahead, John.
Have you guys seen those videos on YouTube where they show like the biggest starships or the biggest buildings of the world? They're all done in 3D. They look really cool. That's what I want to do with episodes. So I did this graph on episodic media over time. Munster 70, Lost in Space 83 episodes, Gilligan's Island. As of March 25th on our second anniversary, we'll be at 731. Mac Break Weekly will be 808, and Twit will be at 860. And then you have General Hospital at 14,000.
So what's our goal for someday? Someday we can dream. It'll take us 20 years to get there. They had so much time ahead of us. So that's great. Go ahead, Dennis.
Well, my resolution is to continue upping my game. I'm going to be moving house in about 4 days' time, and so I then get to build the studio of my dreams. So I'm very much looking forward to that.
That's awesome. Lois?
Well, mine is just like Dennis's. I want to up my game, and so I'm turning a back bedroom into a studio, and we'll see how that comes out. I'm also hoping to become more presentable on air, have more of a presence, I mean.
You do pretty well. But yeah, so it's great. Yeah, I think that most of mine are usually around. I'm trying to slowly move to a point where in 5 years from now, that I'm growing all my own, almost everything, 80% of what I eat. And so I've started by just getting used to single ingredient food, and then I'm moving to trying to get to 60% of everything I eat is from farmers markets this year. That's like my goal, and I'm growing 20% of it, and then I'll keep on increasing that and just getting less and less from Whole Foods and Safeway and stuff like that. My long term, I don't think in years. I kind of think in decades. And my goal by the time I'm 70 is that I'm back to where I started, which is just farming. so I'm just but live streaming it with all of you. So we'll just be farming together. So if you wonder why we're doing cooking and then farming office hours, it's because it's a 20-year plan. So anyway, next question.
The next question is from Douglas Carmichael. What DAW would you prefer for speech-centric projects like audiobook recording and editing sessions? Could you set up Logic or another music-centric DAW for those tasks?
Go ahead, Roscoe.
Well, I would, any Logic or Audition has tagging in it, and tagging is going to be important to any kind of long form project, but I actually prefer to use a nonlinear editor. I would use DaVinci Resolve and use all the visuals I can. I would put a camera there and use that as my recording structure also. So,
yeah, I'm a big fan of trying to use the tool that you want to use for everything. So Resolve could be a good one. I think Logic is a great one. I would definitely not, if you're going to do a lot of editing, if you're getting started and you just need to get it done, things like Audacity and smaller things are really great because they're just fast. Problem is there's a little bit of a glass ceiling, that you get into or you start whacking up against it. So if I'm going to spend hours and hours and hours in something, I would rather spend it in something that I want to use for the next 10 years, not what I want to use right now. So I would go through the trouble of learning either Resolve. I think that Fairlight would be a great place to do that, or something like Logic. Next question.
The next question is from Fred Eric Eckert in Bad Herrenalb, Germany. I want to bring SPX graphics into an ATEM Extreme. My setup is totally Mac-based. For a reliable setup, what would the signal chain look like and what soft and hardware is required?
Go ahead, Jeffrey.
So hardware, not too bad. SPX GC doesn't take that much to run. You can run it on a Mac, a PC, or Linux. I've never tried it on a Pi, but I've heard a few people do that. So basically, that would then just be bringing it in using a screen to kind of mirror it into there, and then of course chroma key it out. And I'll leave somebody to talk about the chroma key from there.
Yeah, I believe that it'll run on a Mac or PC. I mean, you could probably use a Mac Mini. A newer Mac Mini would probably be fine. We use PCs because we're using Casper, so it's talking to Casper, and pushing those out, and that's giving us the key fill out that we're using for office hours. And so a PC might give you more tools, but you have to have a card that can do a key fill output. Next question.
Our next question is from Vic Hernandez in Springfield, Missouri. Any recommendations for a PC-based digital audio workstation? Initially, it'll be for voiceover work, but I'd like to expand into producing podcasts using an MV7.
Does anyone have anything specific for a PC from for as far as DAWs go? I'm afraid I'm a Mac-based person. I mean, go ahead, TJ.
Reaper has been recommended several times, and it's a free and it has surprisingly powerful workstation that works for a PC.
Yeah, Jeffrey.
You have Reaper. You can also bring in Audacity, which I don't highly recommend, but because it's free, but there are some limitations to it. And of course, if you want to pay, there's many different programs from Adobe. You have Magic's software, the Magic Music Maker, I think it's called now. It used to be called Acid, and a couple other companies like that.
Yeah, Audition was really came from Radio Roots, and so it's got a lot of really good tools as well from Adobe as far as how that works as well, and it's cross-platform. Next question.
Our next question comes from Lois Richter in Davis, California. Doing TV shows in the 90s, the cameras needed very bright lights to work. Then the new cameras didn't need as much. With our 2022 gear, wouldn't the old stage lights be way too hot? Can we use a room with general lighting okay?
Good guy.
Yeah, there's been a tremendous shift over the last 20 years. I mean, we've seen them go to fluorescent. So the original lights were tungsten, and yes, they were very hot. And the other bummer about them was that you had to swap out the globes every once in a while, and those things were expensive. And so it's so nice these days to have lights that are cool, so you don't need the AC, because before you would have to build that in, the sound of the AC and the air handling coming through. So it's huge now that we don't have to have as many lights, because as you point out, the cameras have become more sensitive. So you still need lights, and you need a lot of them. Like in this picture, you can see these are a lot of light panels, 1x1s in a typical studio, and that was the original manufacturer that brought LEDs to the market. And you can see how they're using them across this studio here. But you still do need a lot of light if you want nice soft light. The nice thing about these is that you can DMX control them with a board and dim them. In the old days with tungsten, when you dim them, they became warmer. These days, you don't have to worry about the color shift as much, and some of the nicer lights will have the ability to correct if they do shift, usually magenta or green. So, and I'll let Roscoe or Lois take it from there.
Yeah, go ahead, Lois.
So I was thinking more in terms of us here on the show, panelists. I have just a general light in my house, shines off the ceiling. I don't have anything special yet because I'm not in a separate studio. But when I look at it, it looks okay. So I was wondering if for individuals, if you think we really need a key, a fill, a back, all that stuff.
Go ahead, Roscoe.
What I've learned is fill from the front. You always want to get rid of the shadows that are going to be somehow show up on a face. And certainly if you're putting a microphone above, you have to worry about that. We are not. Most of our microphones are going to be below. General room lighting, though, you don't get enough control unless you have you may get lucky and your room lights may work. But I would always say at least get a ring light just to get rid of and fill in on the face so that whatever lighting's coming in from the room, that's what I'm doing right now. Ring lights in front of me. My daughter's desk light is over here, but I would not trust room lighting. And the other thing is that the CRI index of a room light may be way off. And I am replacing an entire tungsten studio as we speak, or actually Lois, my master electrician, is. And I will. So we're getting rid of the tungsten. We're going to LED. I'm really excited to see what I have come January 18th.
TJ?
Yeah, like Roscoe says, room light tends to be from a single or fixture in the ceiling tends to be a little bit toppy. So having something in front of you tends to get more light on your face. If you wear glasses like I do, ring lights are generally not a great idea because you get the little circle reflection off of that. So I tend to use a square panel sort of put up in about 45 degrees off axis to eliminate the reflection in my glasses.
Yeah, and I think that just big sources is the thing that a lot of us just try to get to as much source as we can in front of us. That's a lower level. It also is easier on the eyes. I think that your lighting actually looks pretty good. It's a pretty good light setup. The only thing I would try to do is get a little bit more light in your eyes. That would be the only thing that I would try to adjust. But I think otherwise it's a pretty good frame right now. Next question.
Our next question is from Ike Potter in Hanover in Germany. Happy New Year. I'm looking for a decent 27-inch monitor, 4K with HDMI and USB-C inputs adding to my setup. 24-inch would be okay, but I can't find one. Does anyone have any recommendations?
Go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, the LG Ultrafine 5K. It doesn't have HDMI in, but it does have 3 USB 3C ports in the back, so you can go from a HDMI to a USB-C cable. That's 27-inch, and they do a slightly cheaper one, which is the LG Ultrafine 4K, but that's 24-inch for that one. 27-inch is the 5K and 24. And then there is also this beautiful beast in front of me, but that's a slightly different budget.
Go ahead, TJ.
I was looking on the Dell website, and there are quite a number of 27-inch 4K monitors that have USB-C and HDMI available there. Whether you can actually get one right now, that's another story.
Yeah. I bought lots and lots of Dells. I do think the LGs are better quality. I've bought lots of Dells because usually my external monitors I don't really consider like they're either calibrated or they're just something that has to do 4K. So the Dells have been more affordable on my end, but I think the LGs do look better. Next question.
Okay, our next question comes from David Brady in New York City, New York, USA. Is there any low budget, read free, way to add custom overlays to NDI via Studio Monitor? They provide a title safe overlay, but I'd prefer the Fenwick Framer.
Go ahead, Jeffrey.
So you do have SPXGC that does do alpha, but I don't know how you would bring that in via NDI into a Studio Monitor. Bringing something into Studio Monitor, NDI to NDI is fairly easy. OBS does have a plugin that does do alpha overlay, and then you can just bring the frame in via that. But if you're using OBS, you might as well just turn off Studio Monitor and then use the OBS to bring the frame in as well.
Yep. Next question.
Our next question is from Kern Willems in the Netherlands. Hi from the Netherlands. I'm looking for a teleprompter to use with PTZ optics cameras. It's okay when it's working with an iPad, but a remote control is definitely needed. In fact, 2 remotes would be even better. Any suggestions?
Go ahead, Mark.
So I'm not sure about the remote control, but PTZ Optics or Prompter People makes one for PTZ cameras where it's more boxier. You can kind of see it down here, and your PTZ camera just fits right in there.
Yeah, there's two different approaches. We've actually used the Prompter People one, and it works for a small amount of movement. The really problem is if you turn a PTZ hard, you're going to hit the edge. And so if you really want to have, the PTZ can definitely make some adjustments inside of that one. The other option is getting a PTZ head that is strong enough to hold one. So the PTZ Optics, you're probably going to put this into a prompter like what you're seeing here. What we've done in the past is using telemetrics heads that are heavy enough. We actually attach the teleprompter. What you really want to do is attach the teleprompter to the PTZ. PTZ Optics is not going to do that. But if you had a larger one, you can attach it. And now you have the full range of motion, or most of the range of motion of the PTZ. So, but I think that you're probably going down the Prompter People solution or something similar to that. You can also just remember that you can get the Prompter People one. It's a little costly, but it definitely works. Remember that the concept of teleprompting is very simple. So it's not a complex piece. It's a piece of glass that goes like this, and then you look at the geometry. If you're on a budget, you can oftentimes build something that will do the same thing. The most important piece is to get high quality glass. So if you can get teleprompter glass, you can build the rest of it around it. And we've built lots of them in different countries and different continents. Next question.
Our next question comes from Douglas Carmichael. When Live Nation introduced their drive-in concert series, one competitive advantage they mentioned was listening to music through proper professional PA. What could they mean by professional, and how would it be a unique selling point in this context?
Go ahead, Roscoe.
The way that they do drive-ins, it's either through your car radio or through some sort of external. The external, you have to remember that most cars today are designed to keep sound out. So it's very difficult unless the windows are down, you have a convertible, or you're sitting in the back of a pickup truck to get sound into a car at any good quality. So what they're probably arguing is that you're going to have subwoofers, you're going to have a professional mixer, putting the sound in, and you're hoping that it gets into the car in a meaningful way. Otherwise, low power FM is how most do it.
People desperate to get out of the house, people desperate to sell them an idea that gives them a sense that they could explain why they're going into a parking lot to watch a concert. I think it's just crazy. The drive-ins don't make any sense to me at all. Like, there's things that make sense to me that I'm like, oh, I think it's crazy. Like the drive-in thing just seems like it's just totally insane. Go ahead, Roscoe.
Yeah, we actually looked into this. We did a site walk. We actually picked a building. We were going to project on the side of one of the college buildings and that kind of stuff. And the more we looked at it, it was a total no, don't go.
just like, there's a point where you just say, take the lemons that you have and make the lemonade with them. Don't try to make orange juice. And what we're seeing constantly, like what we're about to see with CES, is everyone trying to make orange juice even though all they have is lemons. All right, next question.
Our next question comes from Douglas Carmichael. What would you use to connect talent for remote audiobook or speech-centric sessions? Would Zoom with original sound on work, or would you go for Source Connect or similar?
Jeffrey.
Maybe I read this wrong. Are you looking for people to come in and read a book for you?
I think it's to record books.
Yeah. Okay, I read that wrong.
Yeah. I mean, I think that you probably a Unity Connect or Source Connect would probably take you down a pretty far path as far as being able to hear what people are saying at a very high quality. So I would probably lean towards a Unity Connect kind of solution for that. You could definitely do it over Zoom, but what you'd want to do is locally record it. So you want to you get original audio so that you can hear it, and then you have them record it locally, and so that you're going to get that high quality file locally and then pull it back out again. And that's the video version of that is Riverside FM. But there's a lot of things that you could do that would allow you to listen to it. Another one that you may want to look at is something like Stream Voodoo, because Stream Voodoo will give you that high quality pass through. And actually, I realize I probably shouldn't talk anymore. So anyway, I think that there's a bunch of things that you could probably use for that. Next question.
Our next question comes from Mike Beardmore in Reading in the UK. Most of the live streams of New Year's Eve fireworks were low resolution with wind noise on audio. The online audience didn't seem to mind as long as they were name checked. Will higher quality result in bigger tips?
Go ahead, Roscoe.
fireworks are very hard to compress because basically they kind of look like noise to compression. So I'm not sure they were low quality resolution as much as the compressors may have had some difficulty. As far as the audio being recorded with noise, there's a sync problem. If you try and use a lot of people will, again, go to the low power or actually the high power FM station locally to broadcast to people sitting watching fireworks, but to bring that into a production environment in sync would be an issue. Therefore, they just go ahead and record what's being pushed to the local live audience.
Never really understood watching fireworks in a video. It's like one of those certain things that are very hard to experience what it's like to be there underneath it from a distance, except for the ones that go horribly wrong, where something goes off. Then I kind of experience it. It's kind of cool. And if you're wondering what I'm talking about, just search San Diego fireworks malfunction, and you'll see a video that I just think would have been epic. Like I would do that every year. Like we're just gonna turn them all on. Go ahead, Roscoe.
I was going to say everybody in San Diego, whether you were in line getting nachos or whatever, knew when those fireworks went off.
Just so you know, like someone hit it was a malfunction in the sequencing system that just turned all the fireworks on at one time. Just fired them all off at the same time, and it was just this massive ball of insanity. It was beautiful. Next question.
Our next question comes from Rupert McRae in Dallas, Texas. CES has announced the show will close one day early. Any thoughts?
Go ahead, Jeffrey.
So the last day of CES is usually a throwaway day. The CEOs have left, the PR companies have left, and all that's pretty much left is just a couple people manning the booths. The other interesting thing is 10 years ago, CES went from a model to actually doing Tuesday through Friday because a lot of the booths or companies would celebrate Shabbat, and so during the weekend there would be a lot of booths that would be closed. So a lot of different factors on that. Being a very skeleton crew on a Saturday, I know when we did a lot of live streams, we scheduled like several companies that never even showed up, and we just had to scramble to get that day to work. So it just makes sense not to have that day around.
I think they're trying to look responsive, to what's happening. So they're trying to do something, and they're basically throwing away something that no one really cared about anyway. But in public, they're saying, "Oh, we're doing something about it," because if there's any significant uptick in COVID and if there's any deaths, this is the end of CES. I promise you. Like it is, they're going to get beaten into the ground for this. We're at a massive spike, and they're going. We're gonna do a super spreader while we're at 350 to 500,000 new. This is insane. Like what they're doing is insane, And if there's a massive uptick that's based on this that gets traced back to them, that it's going to kill the brand. Like it won't maybe kill it in a year, but it'll take it'll be a lethal hit, to this brand if they do this. Like they're going to kill people doing this. Like they are going to kill people next week. Like that's what's going to happen. People are going to go to CES, and some of them are going to go home and die. Like this is insane. Like I'm just, it is unacceptable that they are the original super spreaders. Like this is what spread COVID all over the place in 2020. And this is why I wouldn't go. I was like, I'm not going. First time in 15 years I didn't go. And I was like, I'm not going to that. That's going to spread it all over the place. And it did. So that's amazing. I am stunned. I just felt like, oh, they're going to give up. 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 And they didn't, because they're just desperate, because they know that if they lose another year, they could lose it anyway. And so what you see are the companies that are left there are the ones that are desperate for the old ways. They don't have any way to do it. They don't understand what the new thing is. They don't have any other way to do this, and they have a lot of riding on. And CES is desperate to do this, but that desperation is asking employees to go into basically battle that is as lethal as a battle. I am just I'm just stunned. Like I don't know if I'll ever go to CES again because of it. Like I'm just if anything happens in the CES, which it will, I'm never going back. I won't even cover it. Like it's just because it's unacceptable. They're putting people at harm's way for business. At a epic level. And if it was just regular COVID, if it was just winding down and it was all fine, I would say, oh, But the fact that we are in the middle of the spike, probably the biggest spike we've had in this for over 2 years, and they're going to go anyway, insane. So that's my 2 cents. Sorry, I won't say it again. But it was just like, wow. Like, I'm just amazed of what they're doing. Next question.
Our next question comes from Hasmuk in Cape Town, South Africa. Our national broadcaster was providing a feed at Archbishop Tutu's funeral today. On TV, their audio and CNN audio was very roomy and awful. Sorry, I'm OHOG. BBC's same feed had better audio. How did the BBC get that right?
Go ahead, Guy.
Yeah, sometimes some of the bigger players have a little bit of push, whereas the rest of us have to plug into one of these press boxes. So that's usually what happens is you'll see a sign that says no RF, so you can't even get your radio mics, even if you had like a plug-on transmitter that could go on the bottom of a shotgun or whatever else you could get closer with a stand and not run a cable. But because the presenters will be running wireless, sometimes just to avoid any kind of crosstalk, they just say no RF from the press whatsoever. So you're stuck plugging into this. And if the person didn't care as much as you do, then you're just stuck with that poor audio. And that's what we get. And it's kind of like you take the feed. But I'd probably say that the BBC had a little bit more pull and they were able to get a mic somewhere.
Osmond?
Yeah, it was extremely, it wasn't even subtle, the difference. It was a really wide difference. I've developed this annoying habit of pointing out mostly bad audio, bad video to Nirali and Damayanti. And they always go on a ramble, why are you pointing these things out? Just watch. But they were watching the funeral with me today, and I said, isn't that audio awful? And they all nodded with me, very, very noticeable. And then we watched it mostly on BBC. And what was interesting is that they had some weird headset mics, the present Archbishop and all the speakers. I'll try and share images on Discord. I've never, ever seen such spaced out headgears where the mic was coming from the top and coming right to the front, and it had almost like a barrel shape in front of them, and it didn't sound good at all.
All right, go ahead, John.
Hajmik, when I watch TV with my wife, if I point out any production deficiencies, I get yelled at.
Yeah, the funny thing about production is it's often a negotiation. And so you pull, if you know people or if you just take people out and treat them well, or even just be nice to them, a lot of times you're working through things. And I have gotten much different feeds than everyone else by just kind of working the angle, just talking to people and figuring out, making requests and trying to figure out what can we do here and how can I get a better connection. It's not something that what you want is something that everybody gets the same thing, but funerals are a specific thing because they get stood up really quickly. There's no planning. So someone passes and they've got 3 days to turn it on. So now it's equipment. I've worked on a couple of these, and the biggest thing is it's kind of mass chaos because it's all happening 3 days later, and especially over a holiday, you're going to have trouble getting equipment. You're going to have trouble getting staff. You're going to have trouble getting, so all these things become a factor in what it takes to put one of these things together. And by themselves, most funerals tend to be a little spotty in the quality. Everything outside of the podium mic will tend to be just messy. And if you do it around a holiday, it's oftentimes what you're seeing is kind of par for the course almost anywhere in the world on a holiday, unless it's a head of state, where, and even then sometimes it can be messy. Go ahead, Hosmuk.
Even the graphics were big difference. BBC lower thirds, you could see they've done their homework. They had a list of all the speakers, and the lower thirds put up their names and their background. And the stark difference was that our local broadcasters' graphics, they just had none.
Yeah.
So,
And the BBC's got more infrastructure, and and probably CNN didn't prioritize it. That's the BBC. This is a big deal for the BBC. It's more of they're more Africa-centric than the United States is. And so they're going to put the effort into making sure that it's great. The local broadcaster probably doesn't have the resources to do that, especially over a break. It's going to be, they probably just don't have the way to turn it on. Again, we're not talking about did they invest money over months? It's you now have 3 days to do something. So you either, and this gets into like when we talk about like why we do HDR every day and why we push ourselves every day to make a show better and why we keep on working this so that we all can learn how to do it so that when we need it, we can turn it on immediately. And obviously what we saw were the broadcasters that had that and the broadcasters that didn't, because between Christmas and New Year's, it's kind of no person's land, of what, you can't really, it's just, you're either ready or you're not. You can't get ready in that period of time. Go ahead, Roscoe. Or not Roscoe, Lois.
I was wondering if there are companies that exist that have recognized this problem, put together a kit with instructions on how to set it up so that they can simply be there on one day's notice. Yeah, I mean,
we had at our height in Pixel Core, we had 11 kits, and they were all pre-pro. They would all get repacked and kind of set there. And a lot of them, we had ones in DC and New York and everything else. And so we could load one out. In fact, when Nelson Mandela passed, we set up in 48 hours. We set up with Desmond Tutu, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Anderson Cooper, all of those things. It can be done, with the right connection. And that was everyone coming in over satellite talking about it. And that was in 2 days. So it can be done if you do it all the time. It's just hard because how do you prepare that kind of kit and then have it ready to go? And that's the real challenge. Next question.
Our next question comes from Mike Beardmore in Reading in the UK. The latest update to Monterey has sped up login settling times from minutes to seconds on my Intel Mac Mini. Have others found the same?
I don't think I found any major difference in the login time. I've just found that everything in Monterey is sluggish for me. So it's like my iCal takes forever, and these things say, it hasn't been a great experience for me, to be honest. I haven't noticed the speed difference. Next question.
Our next question is from Craig McFarlane in Boston. Has anyone watched the gorgeous black and white farm animal movie Gunda? I was curious how much they had to shoot to get this quality.
Go ahead, Roscoe.
This is a classic golden hour shoot, and I guess they actually had issues with the pig not waking up, so that they couldn't, the pig wouldn't wake up in time for golden hour. So if I put a link in, there's a good article in Variety exactly, but they were shooting, golden hour is the sun early in the morning and late in the evening. And that's how they got the backgrounds. There was a little bit of mist in the background. They didn't, the shots looked like they introduced a mister, a haze machine. No, this is just naturally what was going on. And they just happened to capture it by doing the early and late shooting. They said they took breaks during the afternoon.
I think that if I remember correctly, that Three Kings, the movie Three Kings that was about Iraq and everything else, I believe they either shot certain scenes or almost the whole movie in golden hour, and it was like a logistical, craziness because you just have like an hour to shoot every day, but they plan, rehearse, and then just shoot everything during that time to get a certain look. But it's a good look because it fills everything in, even if it's black and white. Next question.
Our next question comes from David Brady in New York City, New York. As a chief cook and bottle washer in my studio, how can I successfully and efficiently dial in lighting? Should I get a mannequin or cardboard standee?
Go ahead, TJ.
Yes, actually what you want to get is what's called a makeup mannequin head. It's just the head, and which is really the only part you need. And it comes with a hole on the bottom so you can stick it on a pole, so you can stick it on a light stand, move it wherever you need to. Way more convenient than trying to deal with an entire mannequin.
Go ahead, Ken.
That's why I invested in aperture light so I can control them from my, you can control them from an app. So that's the way you can remote control them. But I did use, which is one of these, which is a phone stand, and then you can put in a card in there. But a mannequin head would be better because then you can see the shape of the lighting. But
yeah, absolutely.
That's another alternative.
Guy?
Yeah, I was doing a lot of this when I was shooting solo, especially after hours. Everybody had gone for the day, and so I'd be doing some lighting for a shoot and need a mannequin, so I wanted to buy in one. So when I just looked right now at all the videos that we have up on YouTube, you'll notice mannequin. She came from JCPenney's in the 1960s, so she has like a pretty realistic looking face. And yeah, she's just been around the block a few times. We've used her for quite a few. So where is she? Anyways, you can jump on our channel and you can see some of the mannequin shots where we wind up using her. Anyway, I think they're a great thing to have, because especially for backlights, when you're trying to get the room light on hair or kicker light, they're super convenient to have.
Yeah, Roscoe.
Something we have, and you may already have it, is teddy bears. We actually use Lily teddy bears. We have a light complexion teddy bear and a dark complexion teddy bear, and they just sit on a stool.
Yeah, Lois.
So what we did when we were trying to do shows at the studio and setting up our TV shows, we just have one of the crew come and sit down on the stand. So if you've got another person in the house, call them in and sit them down.
One note to that is when we set up studios, we hire actors to fill the studios the day before the client gets there. And they sit there and they have conversations and they go back and forth. It revolutionized everything that we did, because we were able to dial in all of our audio, dial in our video, dial in everything else. And it, you can get getting actors just that are capable of doing that. It's not super expensive compared to the entire, if we're spending, $100,000 for the activation for a week, having 3 or 4 actors there the day before the shoot, not a significant cost, in the grand scheme of things, and made a huge difference, because then the clients come in and everything's just working. Next question. But the mannequin is, by the way, an amazing idea. We used to have 3 of them and they're great. Next question.
The next question is from Peter Maas in Belgium, and this regards Zoom meetings. Do you recommend the microphone inputs of the A10 Mini, or should I invest in a separate USB interface?
Go ahead, Dennis.
So I haven't actually used the microphone inputs on mine so far. I'm plugged into the XLR inputs on my camera, and then that's going into the A10 digitally over the HDMI cable. My understanding is that because those microphone inputs are unbalanced, you have the risk of more noise than you would otherwise get. So your best bet, if you can, is to either do what I'm doing or have a separate USB interface.
Yeah, the quality of those preamps are low, so I would avoid it unless you had to put audio into those. And when you put audio in, you really want to put line level in and not mic level, because then you're not really depending as much on their quality. Next question.
The next question comes from Mike Beardmore in Reading, UK. Apple now supports succession planning. What should be considered when configuring this feature?
Go ahead, TJ.
Well, first off, who is going to be your beneficiary and who's going to get control of your estate, essentially, and who's going to have control of your digital assets. And this is something we need to kind of consider more and more as we're moving forward. As more of our life becomes digital and not paper, how do our relatives get into the bank account, to the computer, to these things to see, I want access to the pictures that so-and-so has taken, and they're somewhere in the cloud, so that we have a record of that legacy of that person.
Yeah, and as a quick note, we're going to run just a couple minutes over. I apologize to our educators who are waiting in line there. We started late. It's my fault. So we're just going to do 2 more questions and then we'll move on. Next question.
The next question is from TJ Asher in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Live video on Keynote. I do not see the option to add live video to a slide. Is this something that requires an M1 Mac or Big Sur or Monterey? I'm up to date, but I'm running macOS Catalina.
Go ahead, Mark.
So, TJ, it took me a while to figure this out, but here's live video going through the Keynote. It doesn't come in under the media list until you hit collaborate, and then once you hit collaborate, if you don't have the right version, it'll say, you need to update.
It may say you need to update, but you don't need to collaborate to get the video, but you do need
right.
Monterey.
But the only way I could trigger the update was hit collaborate. It said, you can't collaborate until you update, and once I updated, I could then use the live video.
Got it. Yeah, but I think you do need you're on Monterey, right?
I'm on
no, I'm on Catalina.
No, I'm saying, Mark, you're on Monterey?
I'm on the latest version, whatever it is.
Yeah, Monterey. You have to be on Monterey to do it. Go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, it's Keynote 11.2. So if your system saying it's up to date and it's not 11.2, then it doesn't support it.
Yeah. But yeah, you have to be, it's a Monterey. That's why my computers are on Monterey, was specifically that Keynote feature. So next question.
Last question of this hour comes from Stan Chan in Roseville. My 13-year-old asked me to teach him Unity. I suggested that he also learn Blender as well. Is that a better choice than Cinema 4D? Would you easily learn one if you picked up the other?
Yeah, I think that you'll get most of the concepts either way, especially if you're building stuff for Unity. Both of them are probably pretty close to each other as far as what will deliver good assets to Unity specifically. If you're looking for photorealistic rendering that's relatively quick and easy, Cinema 4D is a better package than Blender. Let's be clear. But Blender is free, and it has a lot of great tools. And again, when you're developing assets that are going to specifically go to Unity or specifically go out to Unreal, the difference between the two becomes much closer because you're not trying to do photorealistic or broadcast render. What Cinema 4D does is, that's what I use in Cinema 4D. I keep on trying to use Blender, and it's one of the things like, I should know how to use this, and I should do this, and it's just been difficult for me to do. So I will say that if you learn one. If you learn Blender, you'll find that Cinema 4D is easier than what you were doing. If you learn Cinema, you'll find that Blender is harder than what you were doing, just because it doesn't have some of the creature comforts that Cinema 4D has. So it just depends on which way you go. He's probably fine to start with. He'd probably be fine to start with Blender, especially if he's developing assets for Unity. I would probably start in Blender rather than spend the money for him to learn it on Cinema 4D. So I think that, and I will say that most of the 3D assets that he learns in Blender, the process of sub-D surface, subdivision modeling and so on and so forth, he'll learn it in Blender. And if he ever goes to Cinema 4D, he'll just go, oh, this is a lot easier. But it's hard to go the other direction. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. All right. Now we're going to go ahead and